Hello and welcome to Talkin' Football. My name is Justin Pennick, and today we are going to be looking at the 5 best and the 1 worst at the quarterback position in the National Football League. And the way that we are going to be doing that, we have 10 different metrics, 10 different measurements. 9 of them are statistical, 1 of them are my eyes. My eyes can be smart or silly or stupid depending on how you think I rank quarterbacks. So, how we're going to be ranking quarterbacks, looking at the 10 different metrics, looking at the 10 different measurements, is we have a point system. If you finish in first place in a given category, you will be given 10 points. Second place, 8 points. Third place, 7 points. Fourth place, 6 points. And fifth place, you will be given 5 points. Figured that's simple enough. So here's how it works. If you finish in first place in every single statistical category, there's 10 categories, 10 points first place, 10 times 10 equals 100. So these will be out of 100 points. Make sense? All right, good. Let's get started. So the categories that I used are ESPN QBR, total EPA, DVOA, CPOE, most explosive quarterbacks in terms of plays produced more than 15 yards, PFF grade, most deep yards of most plays produced at 20 plus yards, on target percentage, rushing EPA, and lastly, my eyes, my beautiful, I think, green eyes. I don't know. Hazel? Is that what it's called? Sure. Okay, so if you need an explanation on what any of these metrics are, you can look at the description below. I included some links as to what is ESPN QBR. It's more or less an efficiency stat. What is EPA, expected points added? I think that's a pretty good value stat in terms of you're a quarterback that's top 5 in EPA. You're largely, most likely, putting a lot of points on the board, or you're helping your team put a lot of points on the board. DVOA, defense value over average. That's from Football Outsiders. Again, it's another efficiency metric, but it's kind of related to WAR, wins above replacement in baseball. So take, for example, Aaron Rodgers. He's first. He is 33.7% better than the average replacement level quarterback. So that's what that means. CPOE is NFL next gen stats, completion percentage over expected, and I think the rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. So let's get to the list. Let's talk about these 5 best QBs in the National Football League based on all these metrics, all these measurements, and based off of the point system. All right, what we're going to do first is we are going to briefly look at the quarterbacks that finished somewhere on this list, but they did not make the top 5. So let's do that. Coming in at number 12, we have Cam Newton with 5 points out of a possible 100. Sorry, Cam, just got cut from the Pats. Hope you land on your feet, bud. Coming in at number 11, we have Justin Herbert with 10 points out of a possible 100. I mean, I wouldn't blink. I think Justin Herbert's going to kind of wind back up on this list. His EPA, he was top 5 in total EPA. 12 of his 31 passing touchdowns last year were from 20 plus yards. That San Diego, they're not there anymore. That Los Angeles offense, they're pretty explosive. And that offensive line is hopefully going to get better for them. Keenan Allen hopefully could stay healthy, and Austin Eckler can hopefully stay healthy too. They have a very good balance on that offense of throwing it in the intermediate part of the field and then getting the explosive play when they need the explosive play. I love Justin Herbert. Coming in at number 10, we have Lamar Jackson, 13 points out of a possible 100. This is where this study may get a little sketch, and so to speak, that this point system and this ranking system, it doesn't necessarily include Lamar Jackson as close to the top 5 as he should be. That's why I included rushing EPA, because I feel like running the ball as a quarterback in today's NFL, if you can do it, it is a lethal advantage that you have. And I think Lamar Jackson, if we consider the 2020 season to be somewhat of an inefficient season for Lamar Jackson, you still look at some of his numbers and they still impress. So if that's like Lamar Jackson's low, I'm still taking that, and he finished the season off really well despite even having COVID last year. They upgraded at the skill position spot. Gus Edwards is going to come in here. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins is hurt. They upgraded in the offensive line. Kevin Zeitler is a new guard. And Greg Roman, offense coordinator, he said that they want to integrate more play action and they want to integrate more deep passing to the offense, and I think that's only going to help. And I think Lamar Jackson can do it. So I'm rooting for Lamar. Kyler Murray, number 9, 16 points out of a possible 100. Kyler Murray really used his legs well last year. Really was throwing the ball deep down the field and really was throwing at an efficient rate. Helps when you add a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. I wouldn't surprise if he rises on this list. Derek Carr, 18 points out of a possible 100. I'm sure a lot of people on this list look at this and be like, why is Derek Carr higher than Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson? Like I said, this point system isn't perfect, but Derek Carr did throw the ball down the field last year a decent amount when he got the flack in years past for being a check down Charlie. And then number 7, Ryan Tannehill, 23 points out of a possible 100. I love Ryan Tannehill. He's extremely efficient. There's a reason why he was in the top 5 in ESPN QBR, when that's an efficiency metric, not necessarily a value metric. When he kind of came into town and took over from Marcus Mariota, that's when the offense really took a step up. I know everybody loves Derrick Henry, but when Tannehill took over, that's when Derrick Henry arguably has now become the best running back in the National Football League. We'll see in next video if he is the best running back in the National Football League. So stay tuned for that. But Ryan Tannehill is really efficient. I love that Tennessee offense. As a Giants fan, I'm hoping the Giants can emulate what Tennessee does. Number 6, Kirk Cousins, 25 points out of a possible 100. I mean, this is complicated. This I would have had to rethink this list if Kirk Cousins finished in the top 5 on this list, because Kirk Cousins certainly is not a top 5 nor a top 6 quarterback in the National Football League, but in this points metric and in this ranking, he kind of finished 6, because he does a lot of things well. But what he doesn't do well is kind of like taking over games and doing more than what he's expected to do. What separates these quarterbacks that are in like the bottom 6 of this list is that maybe they don't do things as well as the top 5 guys in terms of like off-scripted stuff and going the extra mile and taking over games. So, coming in at number 5, Russell Wilson, 32 points out of a possible 100. I love Russell Wilson. I absolutely love Russell Wilson. He is my second favorite, and also I think the second best quarterback in the National Football League, if we're just basing it off of my eyes, based off of he has not really great coaching, in my opinion. They fired Schottenheimer last year, who was an offensive coordinator that I feel really started the let Russ cook movement. And even though it worked towards the first half of the season and the Seattle offense got less efficient towards the second half of the season, I think that they're going to try and be a lot more conservative this year, and that's either going to hurt Russell Wilson when you look at the production-wise, or wins and losses-wise, because they're going to get behind in games, and then Russell Wilson is going to have to throw his way back into the game, which that has been the course that has happened the last couple years. But Russell Wilson, while he was throwing the ball deep down the field towards the first half of last year, that Seattle offense was pretty inefficient towards the second half, where I think they were too reliant on throwing the ball down the field. You saw it in that Giant game where, but they play cover 3, and you got to use the intermediate part of the field and get the yards after the catch, and they just couldn't do it on a consistent basis because they're always looking for the big play. So there does need to be more balance in that Seattle offense, but I trust Russell Wilson to do it. If you put Russell Wilson in Andy Reid's system, yeah, like that. Russell Wilson is like a surefire Hall of Famer, if he isn't already right now, kind of like in his career. He's a Super Bowl champ. But Russell Wilson, I absolutely love Russell Wilson. He creates the explosive plays, he improvises, and he's a really good quarterback. Weird guy. Pretty weird guy. Coming in at number 4, Tom Brady with 34 points out of possible 100. Ooh, blurry screen. There we go. I was one to say after that 2019 season that Tom Brady is done. The arm is dead. It's dead in the water. You watch that Patriots playoff game, and it's like, well, the arm just doesn't look good. This guy doesn't look like the same quarterback, and especially when you're going to Bruce Arians' system, where all that is throwing vertically and throwing down the field. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. Certainly I didn't think the Bucs were going to be bad last year, but I certainly didn't think it was going to work like it was, and it became clear and apparent that once the second half of the season came, I think the Bucs were the clear and easy answer for being NFC favorites, where yes, they had their duds of some games and Brady had a rough start to the season, but that team overall was just really, really good. And Brady creating those explosive plays when that was not the expectation from a lot of people that were watching him in 2019, him creating that explosive play and still having that beautiful touch on the ball, it made that offense. Helps when you have Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, and you bring in Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, and a really good offensive line, and Tristan Wirfs is really good, and that defense is insane, and the 2 best interior linebackers in the National Football League are a tandem together. So you know what? All that does help. But Brady did have a good year. Don't want to diminish that. Number 4 on this list, and he definitely does deserve it. Number 3, Josh Allen, 51 points out of a possible 100. Josh Allen, the accuracy has increased, but also the ability to improvise and create the explosive plays when you're holding onto the ball for longer than 3.1 seconds. That is what separates most of these guys on this list, even Brady with the pocket presence and pocket awareness. But pretty much 4 of these guys that are remainder on this list, what makes them better than the rest, and I'd say maybe Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray are maybe exceptions to this too, but what makes these guys the best quarterbacks in the National Football League is their ability to improvise, where you can't scheme up for that. It's almost just throw your hands up, you can't scheme for when these guys break the pocket, break containment, and just make silly bananas throws with different arm angles. And you even saw it this preseason, Josh Allen doing some funky arm angle stuff with making some throws. And it's really, really impressive to see where you hear a lot of quarterback talking points and a lot of quarterback talking heads saying that accuracy is not really something that increases over time. Usually accuracy, you kind of have it when you come into the league, and then you can build up some other things. But Josh Allen increased that accuracy. He always had the arm talent. That was never a question. But how can you pair the arm talent and the cannon arm with accuracy so you can actually put the ball where you need to when you're throwing it down the field or even just in the intermediate part of the field? Getting Stephon Diggs also helps too. Definitely helped out Josh Allen. But that's not to diminish what Josh Allen did. He had a really great season. Can he also replicate what was almost an MVP season last year? Let's see it. I'm rooting for him. He's a good guy. Fun guy to watch. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes with 55 points out of a possible 100 points. What can you say? Stu's Patrick Mahomes. He's going to do what he's going to do. Again, crazy arm angles, explosive plays. I'm not really relying on it, I would say. But definitely that is what makes this Kansas City Chiefs offense go. It's how the NFL works, and Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be on this list for an extremely long time. And coming in at number 1, Aaron Rodgers with a whopping 81 points out of 100. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I think if out of all the positions that we're going to do on this little 5 best and 1 worst series, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to take the cake for most dominating performance. 81 points out of a possible 100. That is insane. What he did last year is he worked within Matt LaFleur's system. He didn't try to always play hero ball, where in 2018, 2019, I was a guy that was down on Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't as efficient. That Green Bay offense was not as much of an efficient passing offense as it was in years past when Rodgers was in his prime. So a lot of people were talking about Rodgers regressing, where it wasn't necessarily that Rodgers can't make those bananas throws. He can't make the throws that make your jaw drop, but it's just the every down, every play, drive in, drive out efficiency. That was going down. And when he actually did work, second year in Matt LaFleur's system, when he worked within the system and he kind of let things happen, and actually his average intended air yards, I'm pretty sure, was down this year compared to years past. When you let the system kind of work for you and get rid of the ball a little bit quicker, then that's good. It definitely did work out for him. Certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him replicate that again, especially if he lets the system work for him and he doesn't have to always play hero ball. And I certainly wouldn't be surprised, even with missing a lot of camp and the whole theatrics and the drama that happened. I don't like when players start to play GM, and I think he certainly started to play a little GM this offseason. But granted, the Packers haven't necessarily been drafting pretty well around him. They've been trying to push him out. And he certainly proved last year that you can't push me out. You have no choice but to keep me. So, there you go. That is our first, Talking Football's first 5 best and 1 worst video. But we got to talk about the 1 worst. Sam Darnold. That initially was going to be Drew Lock, but Drew Lock was benched for Teddy Bridgewater. Certainly you could put Teddy Bridgewater possibly in the conversation. Sorry, Giants fans, but Daniel Jones is in the conversation. His production has been very, very bad. But I'd say Sam Darnold. And I hate to do it because I don't think that Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback in the National Football League. And I'm going to be giving myself a veto every single episode. If I feel like the points ranking system, if there's something that I don't like, I have the power to veto. This episode, I don't feel like I need to veto anything because Sam Darnold actually was the worst when you go through the final list of everything and when you add up all the points, or not add up all the points, when you just look at who is the worst in each category, Sam Darnold is pretty much the worst. Carson Wentz is also up there too, but I'm not going to call him the worst. And I like Sam Darnold. I don't want to call him the worst, but you look around and you look at the production so far in 2020 and you do all the point stuff and he is the worst. All right, so there you go. 5 best, 1 worst, Talking Football, quarterbacks, done. Running backs are up next. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever on the video if you like it and enjoyed it. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you think I'm a stupid idiot. Peace. See you later.